Today we talk to Brooke Dawn, a soon-to-be globally accomplished and acclaimed musician, no doubt, who releases her first single, Brighter Than the Sun. Here we are, Brooke Dawn.
Understands me like you do. Oh, a heavenly gift.
What are your aspirations and your goals for your career and your life moving forward from here?
Well, my aspirations, obviously, to have a career in music. The big dream is to be famous, but to be famous and happy and successful. But my success that I want is to have people that relate to my music and want to listen to my music and enjoy it, and also enjoy me as a person.
So what does that look like for you, Brooke, in terms of you want to have a successful career as a musician and listen to your music, but in terms of real life, that no doubt is anyone's or artist's or performer's goal, but what does that look like in real life for you in terms of how do you support yourself? How do you monetize this? Is that something that's at the forefront of your mind right now? Because, you know, you're 18, you know, you're a young adult, and those are the kind of things that, you know, you as a business as well, you need to start, and as a brand, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's things that I'm going to learn how to do, is to make money from what I'm doing, because right now, obviously, I'm not. And in the music industry, it's hard to get to a point while still being as an individual and independent, and not like just going to record label and then they're paying you. You have to do it all yourself. So eventually I'll get to the point where I can even think about that. But right now it's just building my social media and all my stuff before I can even like go out of my way to make money.
So let's unpack that a little bit in terms of going to record labels and trying to get a deal, or however we term it now. What does that look like? Let's unpack the usual scenario for a young artist or any artist being successful in terms of getting a record deal.
Well, you could get scouted by R&R, or you could find them yourself. You kind of just approach them, mainly through emails these days. People sometimes tend to ignore you if you don't have social media, so that's also a big thing. But that's not really something I've looked into, because it's always been trying to develop myself as an artist first, so I'm ready for that whenever I need it. But I don't think I am quite ready yet. But I think I've been successful independently, which has been enough for me so far.
So let me stop you there. Let's talk about this.
Right.
Let's talk about successful as an individual so far. Let's talk about your accolades. And I know you're very accomplished and soon to be world-renowned global artist. However, you know, where are you right now? Because I know you've made a lot of waves so far, and you've been very successful. In fact, I'll go as far as to say, without jinxing you, it seems as though everything you touch turns to gold.
Wow.
And my concern for that is, as dad, that you haven't experienced any failure. Not that I want you to, because, you know, let's hope everything you touch turns to gold. But you just seem to resonate the right way. And attract the right opportunities. Talk to me about that.
Well, I wouldn't say that I haven't failed. I definitely have. Not failed, but done things not to the standard that I expected. And I think because I am quite hard on myself, I won't do it again until I'm ready to do it again. Because once I fail once, I'm not going to fail again. So that probably is the mindset behind my success, is because if it doesn't go well the first time, then I'll make sure it's well the second time.
I was going to question you on that because you said you won't fail the second time, and I didn't know if you meant you wouldn't go back to that certain, you know, activity or whatever again to avoid it, or you've learned that much from it that you'll attack it in a different way, you know, and you've learned your lessons, so to speak. So that's interesting. So you feel as though you've experienced some failure, and you know, I think you have to discuss failure as much as success, because without failure we don't learn, and we fail more times than we're successful at the end of the road if we look back, I guess. However, having said that, you know, I do feel as though you've been very blessed and very, very selective and very well guided, actually, in the type of things that you put yourself forward for.
Yeah.
So let's talk about mindset, because that's a big thing for me, as you know. and it's not something that I have successfully managed to master. However, over many years of failure, I think that I'm getting a pretty good grasp of the type of mindset necessary in terms of competitive, because let's face it, you're in a competitive environment, and you've experienced it yourself without mentioning any kind of events, that people are there to win.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about that mindset in terms of how you approach your career, your day-to-day, week, month, year, whatever it might be.
Well, I think I kind of separate it a little bit, like my personal life and things that I want to do for my career. It kind of comes naturally to me to like just put off thinking about things until like the day before. And that's not just in preparations, that's just in stressing about it. So I think that helps me to just forget about anything that I should be nervous for until the second that I need to be prepared to go on stage. So the mindset I have is like, I don't need to worry about it at all until there's something to worry about. And that I think those nerves is what prepares me to do well. I think that actually makes me do better, because there's no need to like stress about it before and overthink everything until you're on stage, and you don't have to stress on stage either. I kind of just comes naturally to just do it.
So I get more nervous than you when I go to watch you perform.
Yeah, I know.
I have a tough time dealing with it, actually, because here's my background, as you know. Team sport is a lot different. There's a lot of mistakes in my sport, basketball. Every third or fourth offense or defensive set, somebody screws up. So it's not uncommon to watch a game and, a mistake is a mistake. And, it's gone and over. But, for a solo artist, that's on stage, and I know you recently played the Royal Albert Hall in front of probably upwards of 3,000 or more people in the main auditorium. And I was one of those spectators, and I was biting my fingernails for you, and you just dealt with it. And I'm very proud of you for that, actually, and quite envious as to how you do that. But let's talk a little bit about that. You, without throwing you under the bus, I know you recently, over the last couple of years, have attended various different, very high-level residential songwriting courses and events. And I know one of which was a week-long event, and you're going to kill me for mentioning this probably, but it's something I want to dig into. And you had a week to write a certain song based on the brief that you were given. Is that correct? And I remember you saying, stayed up till 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. Wrote it at 4 a.m. You were done for the week. And you were like just chilling, meeting people and hanging out.
Pretty much.
How does that work? I mean, what is that mindset? You're saying you don't worry about it until there's something to worry about. How does that process, that creative process, start for you in a situation like that?
I think for a lot of musicians, you kind of just have to wait for the song to come to you sometimes. Like, you kind of can't just sit down and write. It depends on how you're feeling and stuff, but sometimes it's easy just to wait and let the inspiration flow. And usually for me, that's late at night for some reason, on my guitar or my little keyboard. So yeah, it kind of just depends. But I can sit down and write a song. It's just kind of boring and more difficult. It's easier just to let it come to you. So it's probably just the laziness with it. I'm like, I'll just write it when I feel like it,
So, as I said earlier, you've just turned 18 late last year, and your music is very deep in terms of the lyrics and the meanings behind them. And I often wonder how you can write these lyrics without the life experience of experiencing these emotions and whatnot. And I remember something that made me laugh once, that you said you had to hang out with some people that had experienced some trauma in their life to try and absorb some of the emotions to write a certain song. But I must say that, anyone that's listened to Brooke's music, it is quite deep, Talk to me about how you get those lyrics.
Well, a lot of my songs are about personal experience, but I like to write sad songs, so I'll exaggerate. And I also love English. It's one of my favorite subjects at school. So I like to make it poetic and use more meaningful words rather than words you just use in a conversation day-to-day life. that's probably makes it seem deeper, and I like it when it sounds deep and meaningful. But there are some songs that aren't from personal experience. Like the one you mentioned, my friend was going through some difficult times, and that inspired me to write about her because I could feel what she was feeling, even though it wasn't my experience. So I kind of just get inspired from things I see. Sometimes it's a movie I've watched. I'm like, oh, for some reason I can feel what they're feeling, kind of an empath kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I'll go to write, and it kind of just comes through like that.
That's a whole different conversation, actually, in terms of being an empath. That's a journey that I'm on in terms of a little bit of a more spiritual awareness. And, my sister is a very strong empath. Maybe you could have a chat with her about what that means, because I'm still learning myself. So how do you put that together? Because obviously you've just listening to friends in terms of, their experience. And once you've put this song together, do you ever say to them, hey, yo, this is for you? How does that work? Is this, you inspired this, or is that just something that you put out there and hope it resonates with them should they hear it?
I did tell my friend once, but she didn't love it. She thought it was a bit weird that I wrote about her probably traumatic experiences.
Okay.
So maybe I shouldn't tell them. But usually I don't really say. I like to pretend that it's from my experience, so then people think I'm interesting.
Okay. So talk to me about your belief system in terms of, and the reason I mention this, we just touched on spirituality,
Yeah.
which for me at 51 years old is something that I'm opening my eyes to. And I noticed that you set the table here today. You decorated it, and we got some crystals and whatnot here. So and again, I know you're very in touch with earth in terms of when it rains, you've been in the garden barefoot and you've gotten soaked.
Don't tell people that.
I just said that. She does that. But talk to me about that, because I'm interested. And part of this podcast is about learning, not just from, accomplished artists, sports people, professionals, and general everyday people. I want to know what that means and how you got into that mindset of embracing that thought process.
Well, I've always had crystals and stuff because I've always liked pretty things. But the start of spirituality, I mean, it started quite a while ago, like before COVID and stuff. I think I've always been naturally connected to nature. I think throughout my life, it's always been, that's a thing for me. But I think it was just like a TikTok trend at once, and I kind of learned loads of stuff about crystals and energies and the earth. And it's all just beliefs. I mean, there is some science behind it, some that most people probably won't believe. But since...
Talk about these. What are these sciences that people might not believe? Give us one example, maybe.
There's stuff about crystals, like the different energies they can give out and how they can help you in your life. So you'll set intentions to a rock, basically, and decide that this rock is going to help you achieve what you want in your life. And I believe it because I've used it and I've done it, but it could just be placebo effect is also a thing.
So you saying that even though you're putting this request to the rock, not Dwayne Johnson, by the way, a regular rock, that you could manifest the outcome that you want, whether that is a placebo element to it. You could be talking to a football or basketball or whatnot.
So that part of it I kind of just find entertaining, and that it helps in my life. It's like stuff about the universe and stuff. I kind of just find it comforting to know that, there's lots of different things. There's stuff about who are we, what is our souls and stuff. Are we just entities living in some kind of... There's so many loopholes you can go into. But something I really do believe in is manifestation. I think mental stuff that you can do, which people say is spiritual, but I think it's just smart to use these tricks to help you in your life, like affirmations, the law of attraction, and manifesting. I think that's been proven way more than the effect of crystals.
Did you hear about the pyramids?
Yes.
And the news or the discoveries that were just shared with I think on the 15th of March this month, about there are giant mega structures underneath the pyramids, and that essentially, could, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, that could essentially rewrite human history in terms of how we understand, potentially a lost civilization. And for me, that brings to the forefront, or a little validity, if you like, of the type of things you're talking about. Because, if those columns and, the big chambers harnessed energy or whatnot, it was a technology far beyond our current understanding.
Yeah.
So I'm a proof guy, right? I've said this to you before. I need, with anything, mechanical, hypothetical, religion, even spirituality, even, if somebody says to me, if you walk around in the rain with your bare feet, you're going to get grounded and you're going to absorb, the earth's energy. And I've done it, actually. And all I did was get wet feet. So
You have to believe it, though.
well, I want to believe it. That's what I'm saying. I wanted to walk in the house afterwards and go, I feel amazing. That never happened for me. So is that a thing of practice? Is that a repetitive thing? Or is it that I didn't really believe?
Well, to be honest, I couldn't really tell you because I go outside and I get wet and I still enjoy myself. Like, I just like being in the rain. You probably just don't like being in the rain.
Is that a song? Is that the next song?
Yeah, maybe. That's the
Being
next
in the rain.
song.
I'm sure that's been done.
I have written a song, Dance in the Rain.
Dance in the Rain, I love that song. I love that song. Can we play some of that for our viewers? Can I,
It's quite an old one.
Yeah, it's an old one, but, part of what we're doing here, and, I've said to these guys on my little intro and my little teasers for the podcast that the reasons for me doing this podcast are to leave a little legacy, a little different legacy, because we're in the age of technology and everyone has a voice. And we now have the ability to publicize our voice and our thoughts. Excuse me. And, I want to do that. So you're about to release your first single.
Yes.
You've been in London.
Yes.
And you've been working really hard in the studio with your producer.
Yes, Alfie Cruz.
Alfie Cruz, amazing producer. And I
Very,
think you
very
guys
good.
are going to do some amazing things together.
I agree.
So what's it about? Talk about the new single and how this is going to work and where next.
The song is called Brighter Than the Sun. I'm hoping to release it next month in April. I'm going to do a little release party gig. I've got some things lined up to promote the song, some radio plays, some different gigs. And I mean, this is my first release, so I'm kind of just having fun with it. I'm doing all the things that you need to do before a release to make it successful, but I'm also just enjoying the process. So I'm not even stressing about it too much. I've been taking some photographs with my friend Elsie and just having fun. But I think I'm definitely still taking it seriously. But it's all just good times, good times.
And is this, because next year I know you're off to university. You're off, where are you going?
ICMP University.
And you're honing your craft there. And this is a little piece of your portfolio, I'm assuming, even though you are in the university. So there's no, you've done the application process and whatnot.
Yes.
So is the long-term goal to put all of these together, and excuse my ignorance in terms of the music industry, to put these together, bring out your first album? Is that on the horizon? And when would you anticipate maybe coming out with an album?
Well, I'd first do an EP.
Okay.
So I could include this song into the EP and then add some others onto it. I'm not sure when that would be. It took me 18 years to do this song. So, I mean, I've been writing since I was about 7. And this is the first song that I've decided, yes, I want this out. Even though I'm really proud of my previous songs, but it's just something about this one that really resonates with what I want my brand to be and who I want to be as an artist, rather than I like how I've written a song. This feels like my song. So I'm proud of that, and that's why I've chosen this song. But hopefully there will be others, and hopefully I'll decide that I feel the same about one of my previous songs. But it's rare. So
And
we'll see.
any tours are you thinking about? Because I know you've supported some pretty big acts, and is that something you would like to replicate?
Yeah. I mean, you go on tour, you need money. So that's, if I'm at a point where I can do that, then yeah, absolutely I would. But right now, I've got one song,
Well, you've got more than one song.
Yeah.
You have
One
one that you're releasing,
that's
right?
released.
But in terms of money, you say, so, and again, I'm learning. Can you get sponsors on board to fund a mini tour or such like? How does that work? Or is it self-funded typically?
Well, if you're an independent artist, you'll have to fund it yourself. So you hire the venues and then you just get profit from the tickets, depending on how much you price it for. But usually people do it through managements and record labels because it's much easier that way. They do it all for you. You just turn up. But to be honest, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know that it's pricey. And these days, most people don't do that anymore because you just got the social media. You don't need to go see people in person because they can watch on their TV.
Is it not the experience of the whole thing
Yeah.
that is maybe one of the attractions? Because for me, I would want to do it probably egotistically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd like to go on tour. You can see your fans in person, people actually paying to come and see you. But that's actually slightly rare these days with small artists because there's a lack of loyal fan base because you can see that some people have millions of followers on Instagram, TikTok, wherever, but they could be from all over the world. And if you book a gig somewhere, it doesn't mean they're going to show up because they're not loyal to you. They just follow your page.
Right.
That's an issue in the industry at the moment.
And let's talk about AI.
Yes.
How do you perceive that will be embraced or rejected by the music industry? Is that going to make your life easier in terms of the production side potentially, or is it now going to, hinder your potential opportunities moving forward?
It will probably hinder it because, like, people that use AI, they don't have to pay for it, and if they wanted to create the same thing without AI, they would have to pay for specific session players, a producer. So it is taking a lot of work away from these musicians. But as a solo artist, I could possibly use it myself to just make backing tracks and stuff. So it could be useful for me, but for my fellow musicians, I'd like to give them the chance to collaborate and make a living.
Let's talk about that. Collaborations. What are your aspirations in terms of potential collaborations with your current circle of professionals and those that are already accomplished? Anyone you want to work with, and why would you want to work with those people?
Well, I've worked with a few of my friends at college and stuff. I mean, collaborations with bigger artists is kind of just like a dream. I mean, there's loads of people. There's so many artists that I would love to make songs with,
But it's not unheard of, is it? I mean, you say it's a dream. You went to Stenning Grammar, and to mention one of the people there, Maisie Peters.
Yeah, Maisie Peters.
Who obviously did Wembley with
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran,
Yeah.
which you went to watch, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that's not a manifestation of this can really happen right on your doorstep,
Yeah,
I don't know what is.
true.
So, I don't know if it is a dream.
Yeah.
It's just maybe a network.
Yeah, that is true. I hope that can happen.
Talk to me about your influences, whether it be professionally or in your friend circle or whatnot. Talk to me about how you got to who you are today.
That's an interesting question.
Mm.
That's kind of hard to answer. I mean, my influences is just people around me, I guess. And also online. I think lots of young people these days are very influenced by what they see online, positive or negative. I think mainly for me positive. I like to learn random facts and stuff, and I mean, I wouldn't know how to do my hair if it wasn't for TikTok. So that's very important.
Well, I couldn't show you that. So
Exactly.
Right.
But I think you and Mum have influenced me a lot. I think I'm very like you both in different ways, and also very not like you both in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think actually just my family have been the most influential for me. I've always found you both quite inspiring. I think that you're very dedicated to your lives and obviously dedicated to me and Clayton, my brother, and obviously very grateful for that. But you guys have done stuff in your lives too, so I always wanted to make sure that I would do something in my life to keep up the legacy.
You said something to me a couple of years ago, and I think you know what I'm going to say.
Yes.
Tell us. What is it you think I'm going to say?
Well, we were talking about some of my friends and what they were doing in their lives, and I think I was saying that you guys have raised us to think that just living a normal life is unacceptable. We have to be the best that we can in everything that we do, and just to do something, not give 100% into it, is unacceptable.
Was that a positive or a negative? Because some people might listen to this and say, well, that's
Don't live a normal life.
well, normal's okay,
Yeah.
right? You know, healthy and happy. You know, ultimately that's what we want. But, you know, for you to turn around to us and say, and I took it very positively, you know, that to repeat what you said, we were brought up with the understanding that normal is unacceptable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, could be, it could set you up for failure, couldn't it? I mean, you might interpret that as if, well, if I'm not successful, I've let them down, or they're disappointed in me, which would never obviously be the case. And the same for your brother as well. So I'm interested and glad to know that you found that motivational. I'd be interested to ask Clay the same question, which we will at some point.
Yes.
Your brother is obviously on a different journey, a different trajectory in terms of he's a sports person. So between me and your mum, we've kind of led the charge on each different avenue. And of course, now I'm back in the UK with Clay. I'm able to have the privilege to be around your journey more than I was. Not that I was ever away from it, but, you know, in terms of charging forward with you. So I'm excited for that, and I'm enjoying it, but very nervous too. So what are you doing right now?
Right now.
Yeah, where are you? You're at BN1 Arts, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about it.
I'm at college in Brighton at BN1 Arts. I'm only there 3 days a week. It's fun. I see my friends. It's good enough for me. But
Okay.
the hard work that I put into my music is kind of outside of college.
Okay.
And that's not by choice. No shade, no hate, but
Right. And you were out last night, weren't you?
Yes.
To watch some of your fellow colleagues from BN1, and you had a good time.
yeah, it's fun. Rossi Bar down in Brighton, seeing Morse, my friends play. It was fun.
Is that the place to be, Brighton, in terms of a musician? Is that the scene?
I've heard people say that once you if you succeed in Brighton and you don't move out of Brighton, you get stuck in Brighton as a music artist, because they have a very small circle of people that they ask to play at different venues, and they kind of repeat these same bands. And it's easy to be successful there if you're good and you have the connections. But once it's not great for connections outside of Brighton, you kind of have to, it's harder to get out once you're stuck in there.
It's kind of like a hamster on a wheel,
Yeah.
kind of comfort zone, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure the bands would disagree that they're in a comfort zone, you know, that are successful around Brighton. But from somebody who's new in the industry, maybe that's a good observation, you know,
Yeah.
that to get out of your comfort zone. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, I have, you know, instilled in you and Clay is, you know, comfortable is not good. My job is to make you uncomfortable, right?
That's interesting.
Is it? Well, yeah, because you have to adapt. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, well, I come from a health and fitness background professionally. I've been a personal trainer for over 30 years, on and off. That has accompanied what I'm doing. And, you know, the human body reacts to an environment. You know, for instance, if you're pushing a heavy weight, you know, the body will have to say, hang on a minute, in order for me to survive in this environment, I have to adapt. And that's one of the things that I think is important in life, not only, and it's easy to say to others because it's hard to, for me, apply the same logic to my own life. You do as I say, not as I do, a little bit kind of scenario,
Yeah.
you know. I was listening last night to Adele, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Adele, and I noticed that she was at the Brit School. You spent a lot of time at the Brit School with the Brit kids
Yes.
before you enrolled in BN1 Arts. I believe the only reason you weren't successful is living out of catchment. Even though we put you in catchment before the school term, they decided that it was too much of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I noticed that she was going to Liverpool University
Really?
after Brit School, but her mother, I believe, and I might be wrong with this, you know, fact check, right? Wikipedia or whatever it is, fact check it. But she decided she loved the city so much, she didn't want to leave London. And then I believe she signed a record deal, and then it went from there. So I guess, you know, in terms of getting out of your comfort zone, sometimes you might be in the right place. It's just who you meet in that
Yeah.
place, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely about the connections and who you know.
How do you
So-
make them?
Well, you can go out and find these people. You can go online and email people, or make sure that you're at an event that they will be at. Or sometimes you just meet them. You go to these gigs, and sometimes there's managers there, and it's all just about networking. It's about communicating with people and being a people person, and just being nice to talk to, and showing your drive, and you know, in a short sentence, being able to describe your brand and your ambitions is a
Right.
skill.
Right. You're very tenacious, though. I think you're downplaying that, and I think you're trying to be politically correct, because you
Yeah.
are a go-getter. And I would put this down. I heard this, and I can't remember where I heard it, but it was incredible. And it went something like this, and don't quote me because it might be incorrectly structured. But you have two, and this is in terms of athletes, you have two different types of athlete. You have one that's hungry, and maybe, mom, let's put it in the home situation, right? Oh, I'm hungry. Okay, well, there's food in the cupboard, and parents might make them some food, and they eat. And then you get the athlete that's hungry, and there's nothing in the cupboard, so they go out and hunt.
Mhm.
And I think I'd put you more in that second category, because
Yeah.
if there's nothing going on, you're going to make it happen. And I'm very proud of you for that, actually. But I will say you sleep too long. But that's a different scenario that we won't talk about on YouTube.
I don't sleep too much. I just sleep at the wrong times.
You're nocturnal,
Yes, exactly.
right?
That's where I make my best songs, is at 5 a.m. in my room. So
We
I
know.
don't complain too much, because you'll be making money off of my nocturnalness.
Well, I will be.
I'll give you my money once I
All
have
right.
some.
So it's official. You realize this is now this has been put out there. So okay. Just for the record, there's no contractual obligation for my daughter to pay us any money.
Are you sure?
That was unless
Just
your mum's made
emotional
up a.
contract.
Has your mother made up a contract?
Probably.
I want to
It's
see
the only
that.
reason she's helping me.
It won't be. Well, I bet I'm not written into it.
Probably not.
You need a new manager. Maybe I can tender for the management opportunity with you moving forward. I think I'd be best suited as security, to be honest,
Right.
and a bit of management.
Yes.
So you can hear the birds outside in my location where we have this studio. I seem to remember one of your tracks with a very similar overlay. Talk to us about that track, and maybe we'll play a little snippet of it here.
That was Dance in the Rain. That was one of my first songs. It was during COVID. Wrote it on my little ukulele.
So
yeah.
how old were you at this point?
12?
I want to say 12.
12.
So when was the COVID pandemic? That was 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it 521? 2021?
It started in 2019, really, didn't it?
Did it?
And then schools closed in 2020.
Okay, so yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I might have been 13.
Okay, yeah. Coming up 13, probably.
Yeah.
So what was it? We'll play a little 5-second snip in here, and but before we do that, what was the motivation of it, and what's it about?
Well, it is kind of about lockdowns and being outside of school, but probably not the best way to say that, because it was a global pandemic, but I was quite enjoying myself, actually. It's quite a positive song, because it's like the first time I'd been able to get out and just like outside, really. And I hated school. I've always hated school. So I was having the time of my life. It was actually like the best 2 years of my life. So the song is kind of just about that and having a good time, really.
Why do you hate school? Because you're very accomplished academically. You did really,
Yeah.
really well.
I like learning. I don't like people. I don't like kids. I don't like people my age. At least I didn't then. I felt that I was around a lot of immaturity. Plus, people are mean. No one was ever mean to me, though. I think sometimes I can be slightly intimidating just by my body language.
I can agree.
Yeah.
With
So
that.
I did kind of find it difficult to make friends, because I had friends, but once I had those friends who were still my best friends, I kind of just stuck with them. And I kind of couldn't be bothered to get out of that little circle I had. So I wouldn't really talk to anyone else. Plus, I found it quite stressful, just being
Really?
in school.
So you were lucky enough to have been schooled both here and the U.S.
Yes.
And do you think that's given you a more of a balanced, more worldly understanding of education and,
Yeah.
and approaches? And talk to us a little bit about the comparisons, not so much why that was different, but in terms of how that might have been beneficial for you having both schooling.
I think it's definitely given me more of an understanding of people. I'm not sure about education. I don't think they had the best education where I was. At least I wasn't caught up with everything because moving around, I'd miss subjects and stuff. So I had to catch up at around like year 9 for a lot of things I just missed for some reason. But I think the moving around has definitely, I think I understand people more. I think that's one reason again why I find it difficult to make friends back then. I'm okay now. Is because everyone was very similar. Like, because when you grow up in a place, everyone knows each other and everyone kind of morphs into each other. And I could kind of see that. I kind of found it quite boring, really. And I was like, I felt different, but I didn't feel different in a bad way. I was probably just thought I was better than everyone else, to be honest.
What are you talking about in the States?
No.
Here in the UK,
in
right.
Stenning Grammar School. No hate, no shade. But in America, I mean, I went to a few. I went to 3 schools.
Yeah.
1 or 2 of them weren't great. But Scenic Heights, I really enjoyed. I made a lot of friends there.
Right. Do you stay in touch with any of those people from Scenic Heights?
No, I haven't. I don't stay in touch with anyone really, except Ruby.
Okay. Yeah. Some close friends. Right.
But that's it, really.
Yeah.
Some of Clayton's old friends still follow me.
Okay. So were you the English kid? Was that your
Yeah.
Was that your identity in school in the U.S.?
Yeah, it was for a bit, but then I got an American accent.
You were pure Minnesotan,
Yeah.
like crazy, quickly.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, we
and
won't
now I'm
play a
back
clip.
to English, like
The
almost
Queen's
instantly.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sound a
yeah.
bit posh sometimes.
I know. Where did that come from? Because
I don't
your
know.
mum's not posh. I'm not posh, right?
I don't know what it is. None of my friends are really posh. Well, they might be.
Right.
Not that posh. I don't know. I think it's just happened. I think in my interview voice is sometimes posh. I don't know why.
Is this your interview going?
Yes.
Okay. Right. We
I'm
need
not
to
using
catch
my
you.
slang terms.
Okay. Yeah, you might lose me in that. You know, the new urban
Yeah.
language. I might not.
Yeah.
You know, I might not get it. Thank you.
For what?
This.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll do it again. So before we go, check out Brooke Dawn. You can find her on Instagram. Tell us where we can find you.
Brooke Dawn with 4 N's on all socials. That's TikTok, that's Instagram, that's Facebook, that's YouTube. Let me know if you want me on any others.
And your single release is planned for roughly
Roughly the 24th of April. We'll see. My name will be Brooke Dawn on all streaming platforms. That's Amazon, that's Spotify, that's iTunes, that's whatever you like. Let me know.
what's it going to be called?
Brighter than the sun.
Brighter Than the Sun. Brooke, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited for you, and I love you.
Love you too.
Welcome to the afterlife, where the